begin to listening to the Shravanam, it all starts fitting in so nicely. Talking about Bhagavad Gita, the presentations were, we are meeting, I think, the first time after the presentations, right? Were very interesting in many ways. For one thing, each of the topics that each group had selected can actually have very nice, subtle variations at different levels. Words like dharma, atma, yogi, all of these words are, really speaking, not translatable in English. Each word has so many layers of meanings. And the thing I really loved about the presentation was, I think each group was able to identify these levels of understanding and present it in as part of the presentation. That's why, for example, we don't use the English equivalent of Atma as soul. We don't use the English equivalent of Svarga as heaven, because the connotations are different. We tend to use dharma as dharma. I don't think there's a equivalent. You start writing the equivalent in other language, you probably have to have several words, not one. In fact, if you open the Amara Kosha, somebody sent a very nice video, a nice WhatsApp about Amara Kosha. Amara Kosha is a text which is like a dictionary, in fact, more like a thesaurus. Each word, it will give you multiple meanings. So if you open that and look at dharma or atma, you'll find a lot of operating words, like something like a thesaurus. And there was a time when many people would know the entire kosha by heart. I'm quite amazed that when we were studying, Swamiji had invited some lady, elderly lady, who just could chant the entire Amara Kosha. He said there were a lot of people like that at one time. And I'm not surprised, because that is how teaching was done. You learned everything by heart. And you start that very early in life. At that time, it is relatively easy to learn things by heart. Like our children here, the program we run called SAS, Sanskritam, Samskriti, and Samskara. Beautiful the way the children learn so quickly. As you grow older, that I think the ability gets reduced a little bit. It takes more effort to learn anything. But that's how they learn. When you're a child, before you even understood much about the world, you knew all the entire Veda they would know. And then as you start interacting more and more with the world, you start connecting that. And that's a Medha Shakti. They would really begin to understand what it means. Like learning tables in mathematics. No? In school, all of us have learned in various languages. Do, ni, cha, do, tiya, che, do, che. That's how we learn. In English, in Tamil, in every language, that's how we learn. And it becomes part of your thinking. Then later, you don't have to think at all. It just fits in there automatically. Unlike modern day teaching, where for every little thing, you want to calculate percentage of 23 on 50, you need a calculator. You punch in 23 and 50, and then oh, there is no percentage button in this. I do not like that. Everything we knew. And then you started relating to things you learn as you grow. So all of these knowledge was stored. That's why when we talk about oral transmission, which is one of the reasons why Shravanam is so important. Keep on hearing again and again and again and again, it just fits in. Never goes away. And that is why in typical Gurukulam, Nobody ever failed. There was no such thing as fail mark or pass mark, because pass mark was 100%. Some children took a little longer, some children took a little less time, but it was 100%. Everybody learned everything. So there's no question of grading. We will see some of that also in this Upanishad. That's how it is done. And there, in a typical Gurukulam, you will find some of the seniors or people who learned it more quickly teaching the others. When new children come, they teach them. Part of the whole program of Gurukulam. So this Amara Kosha gives so many meanings for each of these words. So at different levels, one has to understand these words. I'm generally very pleased with the way those presentations came out. Please share all your presentations. Some people in groups have shared the presentation, others I think have not yet. Please share them in the group so everybody can continue to benefit from those presentations. On the presentation itself, I think all groups typically had a very good presentation. Beautifully made slides, colorful, attractive, etc. Somewhere I found some of the slides had a lot of matter written on each slide. That is not a very effective way of making PowerPoint presentation. What happens is the presenter, attention on the presenter goes away, attention goes to the slide. So they start reading the slide. The audience is not focusing on the presenter. And they miss some of the nuances the presenter might be bringing up. So typically a good presentation in PPT, which now has so many fancy bells and whistles, but words-wise, in each slide, you should limit the number of words. It is more like a aid memo for the presenter. Then he expands on it, or she expands on it because of one's own knowledge. And that, then the knowledge, the passion comes out. If you just read what is written on that, you cannot bring out the real passion in the subject that a person has. That's only the thing I would suggest, that in your presentations, and you can make your own notes. PowerPoint allows you to make, let's say, 7 or 8 words in the slide, but also gives you an option of notes, which you don't have to project. You can use it for your notes. So you're not reading from the slide, nor is the audience reading from the slide. They are looking at and listening to the person making the presentation. That's about the only thing. The second thing that I had as an observation to relate to the first point I was saying, which is try and not be very careful about the word you use. You will see again in this Upanishad the impact of that choice of words. I remember when we were children, the parents used to tell us, don't say bad things about anybody. Don't say, Kala vadachakato, may he break his leg. Don't say that. Even if that is not the thought, even if that's not the idea behind your thinking, the very fact that you say those words, they used to tell me that there is something called Astu Bhagavan. And that Bhagavan will say Tatha Astu. It's not a nice thing to do. So, use of words, particularly where you're talking about this jnanam, we have to be extremely cautious. When you listen to anything that Swamiji talks and where I take from Swamiji, I'm also particularly conscious of that. And if I perforce have to use a word, I take a minute to explain why I'm using that word. So use of words like soul, etc., which is an attempt at literal translation doesn't always work. Because what happens is the presenter and the audience are not on the same page. When I say in my presentation, dharma, what I'm meaning to say is different from what the listener receives. Because he already has a notion of what dharma is. So unless you can sort of build on it, expand it, explain it, so that the president but you're all potentially teachers, should be very cautious about how. That's not only for teaching, generally in life, one has to be extremely cautious about the kind of words we use, kind of sentences we use, kind of expressions. I know some people, for example, who cannot help themselves. If they have to say something negative, they screw up their face. You're also conveying something by that. You don't need to do that. But I know some people who have already got into that so strongly that they have to make a conscious, willful effort to not screw up your face. It's all communication. So those are some of the observations I had about this presentation. Extremely happy with all the presentations. So I would like to store the presentation as well. Including, please, if you're not put in there, put your team members' names. In a team, there will be different people with different skills and capabilities. Someone may be very good at PowerPoint. Someone may be very good in the way he or she presents something. Someone may be very knowledgeable about the subject, like in this case, a particular concept in the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe extremely knowledgeable. I might have studied the Bhagavad Gita over and over again. But there are others who may not have these capacities, but will have some other capacity. Oh, but I have not read the Gita. I only joined recently. I have only a few classes I've attended. Doesn't matter. They may have other capacities, other capabilities. Capability, for example, as a very good organizer, as somebody who is very good at some kind of research type of work. So you have a word like dharma. All right, let me go through all 700 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita and see where dharma appears or related words appear. You don't need great knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to have studied the Bhagavad Gita in very great depth to do that. One may be able to do that. One may be a very good administrative person. He or she may take charge of the group meetings. Say, let's all meet on so and so day. But everybody gains in these things. Every single member of the team will be a gainer. So these team members feeling, oh, this subject I don't know much about, how can I contribute? Not to worry. You can contribute in more ways than one. Just bring energy to the meetings, discussions, simply because that's your skill. So those are some of the observations on the entire team and team presentation. I would also like to store them somewhere. Please put your team members' names on that. Some people already sent. If you not put it there, add a slide, please. Does anybody else have any observations on the presentations before we start the class?
Yes, Swamiji.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, just a few points only. I was also very pleased to see this assignment bringing all of us back to revising Bhagavad Gita at least, right? A couple of times. So it was very nice exercise and nice to see all the groups actually making a great attempt to articulate the ideas in the form of a nice presentation. I would want to call out particularly Shraddha and Sattva group. Presentation slides were fabulous. Very nice, very structured, very, the subtopics were called out very nicely and it was nice. If I may, I'll just add one point each for the groups, right? It is not to point out something that was wrong, but it is more to add on something that I feel could have made it more enriching, right? So Starting with Sattva, uh, it is very nicely covered, all the key aspects. But the challenge is we all know that we have these three gunas in us and there is no escape from it, right? From morning to evening, these three will keep shifting the predominancy from sattva to rajas to tamas, right? And vice versa. So what do we do when we are in rajasic or tamasic state? So we all now understood sattva is where we should try to be always. So, but there is no escape from rajas and tamas during the day. So I think it is good to contemplate on that in terms of what should we actually do or focus when we know that we are in a highly rajasic and tamasic state, so that we are easily getting into a more sattvic thinking, right? So, I mean, it is like saying even when we are in a deep tamasic state, which is probably end of day when you are tired and you are going to sleep, right? There is no doubt everybody is in getting into a tamasic state. So, but what should be our thought process at that time? I think that focus should be highlighted so that we know what should we do when we are not in direct control of moving away from tamasic state. Then what can we do? What is the best thing to do, right? So I think that we should dwell upon, contemplate more. I think that would have been nice to bring out that if there was, points on that. On dharma, what I noticed was the group was, every member had their views on dharma and very nicely presented, each of them, starting with Jagdish ji calling out the 10 points of more ethical life and what we should follow, right? From a dharma perspective was nice. Particularly, I noticed that each member, though they all presented their views, one common factor across at least four people in the group was to bring out this verse 1847, right? Sreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharmat Sunishtitat. Beautiful. That is indeed a very important one. But what came to my mind is this Swadharma is something very difficult to understand, right? This is the challenge. So just reading that shloka and, translating it is not really going to help us unless we understand where to draw the line. And we just don't know where to draw the line, right? And that is where in Gita Home Study, Puja Swamiji, in his elaborate commentary, very nicely calls out where how the Shastra helps us to understand this better. And Shastra gives this guideline of ashrama dharma and varna dharma. I think to really understand that, it will help us to narrow down on what is our swadharma, right? So calling out that varnashrama dharma was important in that context, right? And ultimately, dharma is Ishvara. So seeing dharma as Ishvara, which is just one shloka before this, that is again a very key thing in my view for dharma, right? Because if you don't see dharma as Ishvara, that is the main aspect of Ishvara, right? And so we have to see that, and that is what will make us a true karma yogi, right? To keep this in mind, that dharma is Ishvara. On Brahman, it was very nice, and we all saw something coincidental because Brahmanyanam is the ultimate. And it was not easy for us to get it in one shot. We had to go through 3 classes to get it completed, right? For whatever reason, Sarwan could not complete on the first day. Second day, he never got a chance. And finally, it was third day. So it was a nice thing to relate it to Brahman specifically, right? Because that is the ultimate knowledge. So that was nice. The only thing I pointed out, which I already spoke to Sarwan for the benefit of others, the words like what Swamiji just now mentioned, I think the choice of words is very important. It should not cause any confusion. So there was one sentence which he had said about Brahman being Nimitta Karana and Prakriti as Upadana Karana. So I was highlighting that, this could lead to a possible misinterpretation that Brahman and Prakriti are different, right? When you say one is Nimitta Karna, another is Upadana Karna, then people tend to think that it is two entities. And a more appropriate thing in terms of Upadana Karana is actually Brahman is both Nimitta and Upadana Karana. So we can qualify that Upadana Karana as Vivarta Upadana Karana for Brahman, and Prakriti you can say Parinami Upadana Karana, right? That which constantly modifies itself. So that will clear all this potential misinterpretations. So the choice of words could be this one. And of course, they concluded with Yoga Chitti, Chitta Vritti Nirodha from Yoga Sutra. Again, there I'm little skeptical because yoga philosophy is different from Advaita philosophy. Again, when you read that meaning of that, somebody should not misinterpret that, okay, sitting and meditating and silencing my thoughts or cessation of my thoughts will result in self-realization. Because that is what will come out if you directly read the meaning of that shloka, right? So, but that is not in our Advaita philosophy, right? We have to understand that jnana is the only means to moksha. Everything else is only a preparatory step, right? I think that's basically it, and very nice. And thank you, Swamiji, for this opportunity. I thoroughly enjoyed it because I could revise at least a few sections relevant to our topic from GHS, Gita Home Study, couple of times, not once, because we had to repeatedly go through that to prepare a proper presentation. And it not only gave greater clarity, again, it gives you an opportunity to appreciate even better Pujya Swamiji's elaborate commentary, right, through this Gita Home Study text, where it is a combination of Adi Shankara Bashyam plus his own add-ons, makes it really very enriching, right? So that's nice. Thank you so much, Swamiji. That's it.
I also enjoyed it. In fact, I'm hoping that in the Bhakti camp, we will follow a similar
Namaskaram,
process,
Swamiji.
not
I would
exactly the
like to
same, but
add
something
to
similar,
what
something, what is it? Something
Swamiji as
similar
well
in
as
the form
Jaya
of
said.
creating groups and having the groups make presentation on the last day. We're planning something like that. Let's see how it works. Sorry, sir. Jagdish, you go on.
Yeah, I would like to add my own congratulations to what you as well as Jaya said about every team's presentation. Only one particular point I would like to emphasize is each one has done a thorough job on the particular subject given. But what is the takeaway and what is it that I'm going to implement in my day-to-day life? That that will probably be more helpful for majority of the commoner, gardener variety of people. Everybody is not on the same level, it's understood, but each one can draw something which he is going to implement for betterment of his own self and the community. So the contribution, how I can translate it into action in reality, if we can focus as a part of our final summary and the final slide, so that will probably be more helpful for the entire lot. So all of us have learned from this. But this particular thing emphasizing that what is the takeaway I have and how I'm going to implement it and translate it in my day-to-day life. If we can also get that, so each one will definitely have a roadmap to go ahead with whatever he has chosen and picked it up. This is my submission.
Good point again. Even as you're speaking, it occurred to me when you do something like this, for the betterment of the self. Betterment means what? For this group, definitely, betterment means, can I step one more step closer to being a jnani? That is betterment. But for the general public, also it is the same, only they don't recognize it. Generally, public may not, because they may not have understood the ultimate pushartha. This group, betterment only means one thing. What will take me a step closer to moksha jnanam? Excellent. Any other point, anybody else? Krishnamurti, any observations? Good. I hope all of you enjoyed it and learnt from this something more than what we've been able to do in the class. That was the purpose of something like this. It makes you delve deeper into it. In the class, you keep hearing, and typically, even as you hear, you do mananam. It's getting processed in the mind. In fact, I was going through my old notes, 2010, 11, etc. And in my notes, I showed it to some of these boys also, you will have lot of things which are not what Swamiji is saying. There'll be a slide box with some questions that occurred to me at that time. There'll be a small picture or a graph of some kind which I'm trying to connect with what being said as a concept. And I found with something very interesting. In almost all of those side remarks, including the questions I have raised on the side in a box, I read that now, I said, what a silly question I'm asking. Because they all got answered. My understanding became better and better as I did more Shravanam Mananam. But at that time, when I was first time hearing Swamiji on a particular aspect, my question in my mind was there already in that. That question got resolved in time. Because continued Shravanam and continued Mananam. I also, generally, I'm a very visual person. So my notes, even here, even in college, I used to do that. I would put all these funny little things in the sides in a box item or somewhere like that, which would be like when you later try to recollect or write an exam, it stands in front of you. So I remember top right, I had made this observation that you connect. But that's because I have a very visual sort of working. Not everybody does the same, but that works for me. Very nice. Very, very nice. Let's start the. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritav Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaye Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The Acharya, in writing the Bashyam for this Upanishad, Kathopanishad, starts with something called a Sambandha Bhashya. He beautifully analyzes the word Upanishad itself. Upa ni purva shad dhatu shadilr dhatu with quick pratyaya at the end. Sanskrit is a beautiful language. You add a pratyaya before, it can either change the meaning completely, it can add to the meaning, or it may not do anything to the meaning. But every pratyaya that you add is a very indicative thing for what the word is supposed to mean. Upa and ni, two of these prefixes here. And similarly, the pratyaya you add at the end of the dhatu, or what dhatu has already been modified, dhatu by itself has no direct usage, unless you're really talking about the dhatu itself. And that dhatu also, the way Panini is organized, it has something called it letter. It, according to his meta language, his own language, means that which is elided, that which is removed. But it has a function. Why does he put the it letter? It has a function because it dictates how the word will modify. There are rules for how the modification is done in the Sutra Patha. So if it is a pith, it has certain weight. Pith means pakara is it. So if it is a pith word, there's ip in that dhatu, which gets dropped. Because of this pith, there are certain rules that it follows. Shit, kit, depending upon the word which is to be dropped from that, it behaves differently. Some other sutra will apply to that. So that dhatu is there, which has got certain it letters, and then you have a purva, in this case upa and ni, and the later affix, which is quip in this case. So Shankaracharya brings it out, and by bringing it out says, what is the meaning of the word Upanishad itself? Upanishad, it is every Vedanta is Upanishad only. That which is at the end of each Veda is Upanishad. And therefore, you have so many Upanishads from each of the 4 Vedas. Actually, Upanishad is what tells you about the reality of the world. This is pure jnana. Therefore, that part of the Upanishad is also called Jnana Kanda. And this jnanam has nothing to do with the world. Alaukika. This jnanam is the jnanam of the self, Atma Jnanam, or Brahma Jnanam, or Moksha Jnanam. Although in the full Veda, you will find some of these key sentences. What is the jnana? Only one. Jivaishvara Aikyam. That's only jnana. Tattvamasi. The only jnana. These are called Mahavakyas. Anything that brings out this Aikyam, that the two are the same, is called a Mahavakya. There is no other way of knowing this. Brahman, as in many of the presentations pointed out, cannot be known except by removing ignorance and bringing in knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter we are doing now, there is I think over tens and tens and tens of pages of Shankara Bashyam. This it brings in at the end of the Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja. That he brings up so much. And the only purpose is to understand that moksha, if you have understood, moksha can be gained only through the removal of ignorance. And for that, you need a pramana. There is no other way you're going to get this. It is not a serendipitous discovery. It is not that one day I stumble upon, oh, that is moksha. No, you can't do it. You have to have an intent saying that I want to know. I know there is something like this. I want to know. And I want to make the necessary effort to know. So I must know first that there is something called moksha. And what is that moksha? How should which I need to gain? Human purushartha. And then I should also know all this is part of the process. That this can be gained only through jnanam. Only through knowledge which is the remover of ignorance. Therefore, I am first a mumukshu. Interesting, this mumukshutvam, many people are mumukshus. They don't know. They don't know that they want moksha. But something is driving them. Even when a person, in fact, in the Bashyam in Gita, Shankaracharya says that ignorance is the cause of every karma. And the Purva Pakshi keeps on trying to argue, no, that cannot be correct. And Shankaracharya thwarts him at every step. Ignorance is the only reason for any karma. Laukika karma, alaukika karma, all of them. And that ignorance, it comes from the relationship between Atma and Dehatma Aikyam. Not Aikyam. That I am the Sharira and whatever is in the Sharira. That is ignorance. And that is what every Upanishad is trying to clear for us. And when that gets cleared, step one, I is not the Sharira. You can do it by logic. To a point. Logic is extremely useful. Shastra never refutes logic. But if you think that we're going to find it only through logic, you have a problem. Logic can get you some clarity. Okay, I don't have to worry about this. This is logical. Take it out. Look at what is logical. But that logical thinking has to be applied to the pramana. Without that, you cannot get this. That logic is called tarka, shastra anukula tarka. Primary source, primary pramana is shastra. To that, I apply logic. I apply all that I've learned in life so far. And you will find three situations. One, that my analysis, my thinking agrees with what Shastra says. Beautiful. My analysis, all my logical thinking tells me that I cannot be the Sharira. I am. That remains. That doesn't go away. I like to use the word I is. That doesn't go away. And yet, by logical thinking and by taking inputs from the Shastra, we can easily figure out that everything other than that, all this include the Sharira, what is called the body-mind-sense complex, is all temporary. I is not temporary. So, having got that far, then you're still searching for I. I have an identification with the Sharira, which Shankara points out is a falsity. And therefore, I'm left still in ignorance about what is I. That is where Shastra Pramana comes in. Shastra Pramana, as expounded by a guru, using a methodology that is come from the parampara. Therefore, Gurumeva Abhigachet, what kind of guru? Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. A guru who has understood not just the matter, understood the methodology of presenting that matter. That methodology is also part of the Shastra. That methodology you cannot learn without a guru. He couldn't have learned without a guru. He himself couldn't have learned without a guru. So this Whole parampara is where we address Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmat Acharya Paryantam, ending with my Acharya, my Guru. Vande Guru Paramparam, the entire parampara. What the Guru tells you, it doesn't come out of his mind. He may add a lot to that. He may add examples and more contemporary ideas into that, etc. But nothing comes from the Guru himself. What I speak today is received from my Guru. What he's taught me, received from his Guru. Or in his case, his Gurus, Guravaha. So the pramana becomes so critical. And if you don't have Shraddha in the pramana, why do you need the Shraddha in the pramana? Because what the pramana tells us is often contradictory to what I have already inferred. I have inferred. It's mine. I have drawn this conclusion. It's like how any scientist, when he hypothesizes and comes up with a theory, he defended tooth and nail. Anybody else presenting any evidence other than what he has concluded, he will fight tooth and nail. In fact, when you do a PhD dissertation, your external examiners will come in a panel and they're all experts in the field. And it actually says, this, what we call the Viva say, that you defend your thesis. You're asked to defend your thesis. But that defense I can take to an extreme. I've formulated this over many years of thinking, many years of observation. So when the Shastra tells me something, if I don't have Shraddha, I will simply reject it, which is what most people do. They have not gone into the details of the Shastra. Therefore, no, this is nonsense. And externally, we have enough inputs to quote. You have said this is nonsense. From childhood, you're told it's nonsense. Don't look at that. Look at only what I tell you. Therefore, not only pramana, you need to have Shraddha in the pramana. That reminds me, somebody was asking whether some books have been released this year. Every year, some books are released. Swamiji's books are released. There are 3 books released this year in Rishikesh. We should get those copies shortly. One of them is called Pramana Vichara, which Geetama and I had transcribed, edited, reworked on, and edited Swamiji's talks only, all based on Swamiji's talks, and various other inputs we picked up from various sources in the Vedas. That's also been released. Hopefully, that should be available to us shortly. Pramana Vichara. Why should one have Shraddha in the Pramana? What is the Pramana? What is the source of knowledge? And unless I have Shraddha, I will not even examine it in any detail. There are people who come and tell me, Swamiji, I don't want to come here. Why? I'm an Nastika. Very good. I don't believe in God. Very good. Shall we come and discuss? Can you come? We'll sit down for a few minutes. No. I don't want to discuss. I'm an Nastika. Have you studied the things which you're rejecting? No, but I know it's nonsense. How can you discuss with them? The pramana and the Shraddha in the Pramana. Pramana includes Guru. Shraddha in the Pramana and in the Guru is a basic starting point for any learning. So Shankaracharya brings it out beautifully by talking about the Upanishad itself as a word, and justifies why the book which has the printed version of the Upanishad is also called Upanishad. And then he brings out this beautiful Anubandha Chatushtaya. The text has 4 key components it must have. That clarity must be there before the text becomes useful. What is the Vishaya? What is the text trying to tell us? What is the main theme of the Upanishad, of the book, of the Grantha? It's true of anything. If you write a PhD thesis, unless you have clarity of what the subject is, the rest of it will be rambling. A subject matter which is not available to any other pramana, therefore which cannot be contradicted by any other pramana, for which I have only one source of knowledge, and that's my Veda, my Shastra. So that is the first of the 4 Anubandha Chatushtaya. What is it about? Someone has to understand that it's about me. Me means I'm pointing to the Sharira. No, me, I, not the Sharira. Because we have already concluded with clear analysis, with inputs from Shastra, that I is not this. Although I instinctively say I, not I. That's not the I want to find out. I want to find out what is really. That is the subject matter. And this is not available anywhere else. In fact, one of the biggest problems with Western thinking, Western analysis on Sanskritam, on Shastra, on any of these, is that they are not able to wrap their mind around this concept. They will study it like any other object and become great scholars, deeper and deeper, narrower and narrower on any subject, without recognizing that the subject matter is not an object. Subject matter is I. That subject matter, if you understand, and if you also understand that for that subject matter, there is only one possible pramana which cannot be contradicted, neither internally within the pramana nor by external sources of knowledge, and that it is about I, once Shraddha becomes clear. Okay? Who can do this? We have studied earlier that it is meant for the adhikari. And we have a whole lot of list of things that make you an adhikari. Shramadamadi shatka sampattihi, mumukshutvam, vairagyam, viveka, all that we have studied. But think about it. If you are clear, if you are born a human being, then you are eligible. If you are born a human being, you are an eligible candidate, potentially, who can qualify to learn this truth. As a human being, you are a Mishra. You have both Punya and Papa unfolding. Which is the only one which makes you think, why? If you had only Punya, if you had a life which had no grief at all, why would you think about this? There is specific type of punya to be born into a family where there's no dearth of any kind of material wealth. That's a punya there. Otherwise, you won't get that. That comfort that you get, which you can buy with this, that is one particular type of punya. But does that punya give you freedom from grief? No. A person is born to a rich family, but is born mentally deficient. Great grief for the parents. Physically handicapped. Grief for everybody, including that person himself. With the mindset so strongly inclined not to look at this at all, like the Charvakas, who say, don't worry about the after life. You enjoy yourself. Leave behind a lot of debt. How does that matter? You're not there anyway. Why do you have to worry about it? We want like that. In which case, you're not going to get this. So the punya that one has earned can give you certain comforts and give you certain pockets of sukha. But because you have also a large component of papa karma leading to unpleasant situations, and the mind, the ability to analyze, question, the ability to say, why is it happening to me? The ability to judge oneself. The ability to judge and say, I am wanting in this area. Here it's okay, I'm all right. On wealth, I'm okay. But I am wanting in this area. My health has never been good from childhood. Anything is possible. That question, when that arises, then you start exploring. You become a seeker. And all these capabilities are available to every human being. There is no human being who is not capable of this. Animals are not capable of this. I don't think anybody has found that a monkey or a donkey or an elephant questioning these things. There's no evidence to say that. But human beings are given these various factors that question, that raises these questions and impels one to seek answers. Where to go and find the answers? And when you search for the source of that answer, if you have made enough effort, if you have enough punya behind you, you might end up at Shastra. Somebody may, in the process, end up elsewhere and not get to the Shastra. They will have to go through the whole cycle again. And if you end up in the Shastra, and with again another set of punya karma, acquire an appropriate guru who accepts you as a shishya. That also requires punya. But theoretically, every human being has all the necessary qualities to be an adhikari for this knowledge. beautifully structured human system. Ability to think, ability to question, ability to judge, self-judgment, ability to recognize that this cannot be complete. This is not correct. There's more, there has to be more to it. All of these are already available. We will most likely, after the finishing the Bhagavad Gita, take up Vivek Chudamani. Acharya has come up with some very beautiful verses in that about this. How Manushya Janma is rare. Without Manushya Janma, it is almost impossible to gain moksha because you don't question, you don't have the capacity to judge, you don't have the capacity to discriminate. But of all the human beings, 8.5, 9 billion that we are in the world, very few get there. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye. Very few even make an effort. Yatatanam siddhanam, even among those who make the effort, kaschit mam veti tattvataha. Very, very few people get to know me in reality, know Ishvara in reality. What is that reality of Ishvara? I am Ishvara, or I is Ishvara. That's a fact of life. Otherwise, for a Vedanta class, whether it's taken by Puja Swamiji or I take the class or anybody else takes the class, you make it 30 people. If you want to do a bhajan, you will get 300 people. If you want to do yoga exercise, you will get 30,000 people. That's all the level we have. So that is part of the Anubandha Chatushtaya, which also Shankaracharya brings out very beautifully and says all this is embedded in just that word Upanishad. We will take up the further one in the next class. We don't have the time now to complete it. And the next class will be not tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to Anamalai to do a camp for 3 days. This is on Shivanasa Puja. Again, very beautiful text written by Shankaracharya. So tomorrow I cannot take the class. We will continue in the next week class. And hopefully from there, there'll be not too many disruptions. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om